North Korea is watching. The United States and South Korea have been conducting joint military exercises, and here North Korea says these drills represent an immediate and open threat to regional security here. For Pyongyang, these exercises, they are not defensive drills. North Korea has long described them as a rehearsals for an invasion. But wait, there's a twist here. This year, Mr. Trump ordered the exercises to be scaled back. The annual Ulchi Freedom Drill, it has been shortened. The second phase of the exercise, it was reportedly scrapped. Mr. Trump described the drill as inappropriate and hostile. In fact, he has also praised Mr. Kim Jong Un and signaled an interest in restarting the talks. And yet, North Korea's statement, it did not even mention the US decision to reduce the exercises. Well, that's interesting because usually, if an adversary reduces the military exercises, you might expect the other side to welcome the move. But it's North Korea. Pyongyang instead repeated its warning. Why? Because North Korea sees the drill as part of a much larger security structure. The US stations around 28,500 troops in South Korea. The two nations have maintained a military alliance for decades now. The Korean War ended in an era here, not a peaceful treaty. So technically, the whole conflict never ended with a formal peace agreement. And that is why every military exercise carries symbolic weight here. Now, for South Korea, these exercises are about readiness. For Washington, they are about deterrence, but for Pyongyang, they are a threat maybe, and for the neighboring nations, they are source of uncertainty. There is another layer here. Mr. Trump's willingness to scale back military exercises has already raised question among the US allies about America's long-term security commitments in East Asia here. Well, if Washington reduces its military presence or exercises, will allies feel less secure? Will North Korea feel more confident here? And will China interpret the move differently? These are the questions policymakers are asking now. And yes, that brings us to our final story tonight, because after 13 stories about military power, geopolitics, technology, and global tension, we end with something that affects all of them. Money. America's money rather, and more precisely, America's debt. And you know what? The number that is almost impossible to believe here. $40 trillion. And yes, while governments fight over satellites and communication, scientists are fighting a very different battle here. One involving viruses. And yes, the next story takes us to South America, because scientists are warning that diseases once considered very rare that may offer clue about the next pandemic. The next pandemic may not come from where we expected. That is one of the biggest lessons from the latest research into diseases that jump from animals to the humans. Ladies and gentlemen, scientists have long studied viruses such as Ebola and hantavirus. COVID-19, it also reminded the entire world how quickly a disease can move from an animal-human interaction to a global crisis. And now researchers are watching a very different set of diseases in South America. One example is Argentine hemorrhagic fever. The supplied report describes the case of 65-year-old woman. That woman is from Argentina, who developed severe symptoms and later on she died. Well, doctors discovered that she had contracted Argentine hemorrhagic fever, a rare disease associated with the rodents. The worrying part is not just one case. It's a broader pattern here. The disease has reportedly resurfaced after decades and is appearing in areas where it had not previously been seen. In the meantime, scientists are increasingly concerned about zoonotic diseases. Basically, that means diseases that move between animals and humans. Just like COVID-19. And the environment here, that matters. When humans expand into new habitats, when forests are destroyed, when animals lose their natural environment, when climate conditions change, the relationship between humans, animals, and these kind of environment, that changes too. According to report, climate change is one factor that can accelerate the speed of certain diseases. That does not mean climate change automatically creates a pandemic, but it can alter where animals live, where mosquitoes thrive, where rodents spread, and where humans come into contact with the wildlife. And wait, that can change the geography of an entire disease. Well, this is why scientists they keep warning the world not to focus only on the last pandemic. The next outbreak, it may not look like COVID. It may not begin in a major city. It may begin very quietly, one infection, then another, and by the end of the time, the whole disease that can move very, very quickly. That is why surveillance here matters, early detection matter, and understanding the environment that also matter. But yes, from viruses, we now move back to Washington. This time the story is not about Iran. It is about women dating the FBI director and a defamation lawsuit that has just suffered a major setback.